Immediately, I'm like, oh my goodness, security must be on their way up the stairs to knock on my door with big boxes and cart me out to my car to do the walk of shame. And so she's talking, but I just hear wah, 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 like Charlie Brown's teacher. And then there's this pause. Hey, Courtney Sanders here. Welcome back to my podcast. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time certified seven-figure life and business coach, as well as wife and mom, wear all the hats and do all the things. And I'm also a keynote speaker. And so I thought it'd be fun for this podcast for you to listen to a keynote that I did for the Girls Inc. organization. In fact, I did a talk all around how to live a big life. And even though it was directed towards the young girls for whom the organization supports, there were also plenty of adults in the audience, right? It was a gala, a formal donor dinner where they were donating money to the organization. And so I was really excited to come out and speak for such an amazing cause. But I was also like, you know what? More people need this information, right? Not just the people who were in the room, because I believe that this information will help you live a big life. So if you're looking to live a big life, not just for this year, but in beyond, because as I am recording this, we're coming up on the end of the year, you're really gonna enjoy this talk. So if you are listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, you can come on over to YouTube to watch the actual video clip from the keynote speech that I gave. But with that, let's get into it.
I have someone very important to introduce. I hope you are enjoying your evening and the lovely dinner. It is now time to introduce our keynote speaker, Ms. Courtney Sanders, an award-winning online business coach, personal branding expert, and women's empowerment speaker. Courtney helps women turn their skills and passions into profitable online businesses. With a collective social media following of over 100,000 fans, Courtney has also served as a brand ambassador for several companies and a TV guest contributor. Courtney has been featured in Forbes, InStyle, Essence, and Black Enterprise magazines. She also serves as a featured speaker at the White House for Obama administration's Council on Women and Girls and at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm Houston, Texas welcome for Courtney.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Lisa, for that amazing introduction. It always feels weird hearing, your life story read back to you in third person, but while everything she said was definitely true, I thought it would be fun to open this up with something that you might not know about me, namely 13 words that were said to me that I believe, had they not been said to me, I wouldn't be standing before you today. And those 13 words were, I won't be forwarding this complaint because I follow you on social media. Never in my life have I been more relieved to hear those words. These words were said to me by someone that worked in the chairman's office at my former job as a federal employee. I thought it was just a normal day. I was working in my office when the phone rings and I look down and I see that the area code is 202. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Washington, D.C., but 202 is their area code. And if you are a federal employee, which I was at the time, 202 automatically means headquarters. So I knew this was a big deal. I just didn't know what it was. So I pick up the phone and I say, hello. And the person on the other end says, hi, is this Courtney Sanders? And I'm thinking, yeah, who are you? Because they didn't introduce themselves. And she says, hi, I'm calling from the chairman's office. And I just wanted to let you know that we've received a complaint about your business. Now, exactly. Immediately, I'm like, oh my goodness, security must be on their way up the stairs to knock on my door with big boxes and cart me out to my car to do the walk of shame. And so she's talking, but I just hear wah, 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 like Charlie Brown's teacher. And then there's this pause. And I realize, oh my goodness, this is the part where I'm supposed to say something. And so she repeats herself and she says, do you understand what I've just explained to you? And I say, yeah. And she says, do you have any questions? And I say, what does this mean? Am I fired? And she says, I won't be forwarding this complaint because I follow you on social media. And I know what it's like to be a young woman just trying to make her way in the world. So you have a good day." And she hung up the phone. How many of you in this room have ever been in a situation where you thought something bad was about to happen, but really, something big was about to happen? Ever since I was a little girl, I've always believed that everyone was born to be big. Not just celebrities and not just politicians, but everyone was born with their unique blueprint to a big life already inside of them. Henry David Thoreau once said, "Most men live lives of quiet desperation." But I believe that desperation is really just divine navigation. It's a flashing sign pointing you towards what you were created to do. Live a big life. So whether you're one of our generous donors who are here this evening, or one of our Girls Inc. mentees, or maybe you're one of the staff members who work tirelessly behind the scenes. From the person on the camera right now to the person who mic'd me, I came here to let you know that you were made to be big. Now, Albert Einstein once said, "If you can't explain something to a 6-year-old, it means you don't understand it well enough yourself." So in the 15 minutes that I have with you this evening, I'm going to break down the last decade of research and personal practice I have in living a big life and make it as simple as B-I-G. Now, the B in big stands for belief. And by belief, I don't mean being Pollyanna-ish or playing pretend. I mean that deep knowing in the pit of your gut that you can do anything. And when I think of belief, I think of Amelia Earhart. Not just that famous female pilot who flew solo across the Atlantic, but a different Amelia Earhart. Amelia Rose Earhart, to be exact. Now, Amelia Rose Earhart is a modern woman. She's a millennial, complete with an Instagram account, who was told by her family her entire life that she was related to the Amelia Earhart. So at just age 21, she began taking flying lessons. And at age 30, she captured the world's attention when she announced her plans to fly across the globe in honor of her namesake. Now, if she succeeded, she would not only be the youngest woman to do this, but she would be trying to do something that even the original Amelia Earhart died trying to do, which was fly across the world in a single-engine airplane. Naturally, the press had a field day. I mean, was she even related to Amelia Earhart like her family said? On July 31st, mere months before she was set to take her historic flight, Amelia Rose Earhart got the news of her life. The reporters had done their fact-checking and discovered that she was not related to Amelia Earhart. Her parents had named her in vain. Humiliated on the world stage, Amelia Rose Earhart chose to climb out of her pain and climb into a single-engine airplane and fly around the world anyway. Amelia Rose Earhart knew that even if she didn't share Amelia Earhart's lineage, she believed that she could share her legacy. And so Amelia Rose Earhart's story shows us this powerful truth about the power of belief and how it enables us to be big. It's not enough to believe what you see, but you must be willing to see what you believe. Amelia Rose Earhart saw herself as a woman that could fly around the world, and so she did. When's the last time you didn't believe in yourself and it kept you from living a big life? Maybe you didn't believe that you could pass the test, and so, not surprisingly, you didn't. Or maybe you didn't believe that you were good enough for that promotion, and so you didn't even apply. Or maybe you didn't think that you can make a big enough impact, and so you didn't donate and you didn't volunteer your time. But what about when you did believe in yourself? Have you ever believed in yourself so strongly that when you actually pulled it off, you felt like a superhero? Well, that's not by accident. Behavioral expert Chase Hughes, who has worked with both the CIA and the military, says that a person's internal belief, regardless of whether they are a good or bad person, is the single greatest determinant to them getting what they want. I don't know about you, but I wish bad people believed in themselves less. And good people, like you, believed in themselves more. Amelia Rose Earhart believed in herself, despite her circumstances, and it allowed her to live a big life. So if B, belief, makes you a superhero, then I, intention, is your secret weapon. And by intention, I mean choosing your choice. Your choices matter. And I know this from personal experience when I nearly made the choice to drop out of college. Now, my college career started off on a good enough foot. After years of spending my summers doing science and math programs, thanks, Mom, I walked onto Howard University's campus with a full ride engineering scholarship in hand. Ooh, thank you. Ooh, you couldn't tell me nothing. I thought I was on top of my game. So on top of my game, in fact, that one day I decided to skip my engineering class to attend a lecture on entrepreneurship that was happening at the business school. That choice to skip class one day turned into a choice to skip my classes for an entire semester as I attempted to build a business. And that choice turned into me maxing out my credit cards when I received a letter informing me that my plummeting GPA meant I was no longer eligible for my scholarship. That turned into a choice to work not one, but 3 jobs just trying to make ends meet. And when the bills got to be too much and the tuition got to be too high, that turned into a choice to submit my formal withdrawal, which would unenroll me from college. In a matter of months, I went from waiting on campus to waiting tables. And as I walked back to the apartment that I could barely afford, wondering how it all went downhill so quickly, I had an epiphany. If inattention is what had gotten me into this mess, then intention is what would get me out. I had to start choosing my choices. And so as I worked my waitressing job, I chose to save my tips. And when I had enough money, I chose to walk back on that campus and re-enroll in college. And thank you. And when my classes began, I chose to attend. And when my professors shared their wisdom, I chose to give my best. And when my grades rose to the level to earn another scholarship, I chose to take it. And when I completed my degree, I chose to walk across that stage. Physics professor Dr. Whiteheart says, a single domino is capable of knocking down another domino that is 50% bigger in size, which means that while the first domino might be only the size of your credit card, and the third domino might only be the size of your iPhone, the 23rd domino would be the size of this hotel building. What hotel-sized goal could you achieve if you simply got intentional? Maybe you could be the first person in your family to graduate college. Or maybe you could be the first example that a young girl sees that lets her know she can make it. Or maybe you could be the first donor to raise your paddle for a $10,000 donation this evening to an organization that is so committed to the development of the whole girl. When it comes to being big, intention matters. Always choose your choice. So if B, belief, makes you a superhero, and I, intention, is your secret weapon, then every superhero needs a secret identity, which is G, your gifts. Your gifts are important for the same reason that a secret identity is. It allows you to be big while living a normal life. Now, if you can't tell by now, I'm a bit of a history buff, which means I have one more historical reference for you, and that is in the story of Mary Ellen Pleasant. Mary Ellen Pleasant was born in the early 1800s, and even though she achieved freedom from slavery, she never received a formal education, which means she was confined to doing domestic work in the homes of the country's wealthy elite. And so while she worked for wealthy men who routinely overlooked her as just a maid and a cook, Mary Ellen Pleasant would routinely overhear their business conversations. In fact, she got so good at being overlooked that no one noticed when she took all of the business advice that she had overheard and amassed a fortune of over $30 million in 1858. I mean, $30 million is a lot of money today, right? Mary Ellen Pleasant bought silver, gold, real estate, and even a Wells Fargo bank, which led to her secret weapon of becoming a philanthropist. Mary Ellen Pleasant, sure, she made big investments, but she made even bigger donations. So much so that historians said she would be even wealthier if it weren't for all the money that she gave away. But I believe she was wealthier because of it. You see, by day, Mary Ellen Pleasant was a normal person, just like you and me. But by night, she was a philanthropic superhero, using her gifts to support those in need. Mary Ellen Pleasant understood the last key to living a big life, which is using your gifts. Your gifts are your guide to greatness, and you are different by design. Mary Ellen Pleasant inspired an entire generation to be strong, smart, and bold. What gifts do you have that you're not using right now? What gifts do you have that if you use them, it would take your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Maybe you have the gift of math and science, which you could use to become the next great doctor, scientist, or engineer. Or maybe you have the gift of leadership, which you could use to make organizations like Girls Inc. even bigger. Or maybe, like Mary Ellen Pleasant, you have the gift of philanthropy, which you can use to not only impact those of us in the room, but all the deserving girls who wanted to be, but couldn't. So I have one last story for you, and then I'll close. And I love sharing this story because every time I tell people that they're made to be big, the number one question I get is how. And the best way to illustrate how is to share the story of how I got engaged to my husband of 8 years. Now, my now husband, then boyfriend, loves to keep me on my toes. And so 8 years ago, he proposed with a scavenger hunt. Now, it started with a note on my pillow, which led to a surprise mani and pedi at my favorite nail salon, which led to instructions to pick up a rental car, which was really just a ruse to get me to the airport to pick up prepaid airline tickets from Dallas, Texas to Los Angeles, California for a flight that was leaving in less than 2 hours. That led me to board a plane with nothing but my ID and the clothes on my back, which then led to me landing in LA to meet a black car pickup service, which then led to a drop-off at a 5-star hotel downtown, which then led to a little black dress that was waiting for me on the bed with a note that said, "Meet me downstairs." So, so when I finally reunited with my boyfriend, he surprised me with an amazing dinner. And as we walked into this super fancy restaurant, by now I'm getting it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this man is about to propose. Like, he has to, right? So as the waiters were coming around and giving us our food, I would tense up and get so nervous because I was waiting to say, oh my goodness, is this gonna be the moment? So much so that even during dessert, I would hold my fork so gingerly, just in case in between bites of cheesecake, I accidentally would bite down on a diamond ring. But the check came and he paid. And we got in the car. And as we drove back to the hotel room, I couldn't help but feel confused. That is, until he turned to me with a grin on his face and said he had one final clue. And as he turned up the volume on the stereo and the radio announcer came on, yes, the radio announcer asked me a question and I answered correctly, he veered off course and drove us to the Griffith Observatory, where we walked in and under the cascade of the stars above and overlooking the twinkling lights of Los Angeles below, he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. And I said yes. And so I tell you that story not just to shout out my husband, who is an amazing man, love you, babe, but to show you the power of trusting the process. You see, my engagement took over 13 steps across 2,000 miles, spanning 2 different states over a 12-hour day, just to get me to say yes. But what was I really saying yes to? Because I didn't know that 8 years of marriage and counting would be waiting for me on the other side of trusting the process. I didn't know that 2 beautiful children would be waiting for me on the other side of trusting the process. I didn't know that a thriving business and speaking engagements and magazine features and trips around the world would be waiting for me on the other side of trusting the process. In short, a big life was waiting for me because I was willing to trust the process. And a big life is waiting for you too. Tonight, I came here to let you know that you were made to be big. So go be big. Thank you.